Pledge to ensure free and fair polls on the 1st of November. The parties have also agreed to abide by all the rules and regulations set out by the Independent Electoral Commission. The signing ceremony is in compliance with the Electoral Act, which requires political parties to publicly commit to upholding the provisions and purpose of the Code of Conduct ahead of elections. My colleague Natasha Piri, our political reporter on SABC News, is standing by. Very good afternoon to you, Natasha. So, did we see all parties represented there, and give us insight into what happened?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Nzinga, once again, as we continue to bring you rolling coverage of, the events that actually took place today. I'm actually joined by various leaders of political parties. But before we go there, you've just asked a question of every political party that was here. Unfortunately, the EFF were not here. I'd spoken to their media communications manager, Stolisile, and she had said that none of the party leaders would be attending the event as they are on the ground working. But I'm actually joined by the Member of Parliament of the NFP, Mr. Sheikh Imam. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I mean, in your pledge, you lamented the fact that some political parties did not disclose, their funding to the IEC, as well as the DA's, leader, Mr. John Steenhuisen.
Yes, indeed. Remember, there's only 3 political parties that have disclosed their funding. And like I gave an example, just to hold one event with 2,000 people cost you about 400,000 rand. So then where is all this money coming from? Is the act that we put in place good enough? Is it going to prevent money laundering and corruption in the country? Clearly, it's not going to be. So how do we call this a free, fair and credible election if some political parties are going to be able to manipulate the entire system? And that calls for the IEC and law enforcement in the country to be able to look at that.
But Mr. Imam, to also be fair, the DA, like you said, 3 political parties was the DA, the ANC and Action SA. I don't remember seeing the NFP's name on that list.
Yes, indeed, very much so. The NFP is not there because it did not have that funding. It does not have the funding. Remember, the NFP did not contest in 2016 as that there was very little confidence in business people in being able to provide. So we don't have that. That's why we haven't even had a manifesto launch which we're going to have in 2 weeks' time. So that's the only reason we did it, because we did not get that monies. But if you look at the events that are being hosted by political parties, it will clearly indicate there's hundreds of millions of rands that are being spent. And where is this money and why is it not being accounted for? And what was the purpose of this act if people are still going to be able to manipulate the system?
Mr. Imam, thank you so much. Let me just quickly rope in the leader of the Democratic Alliance, who actually shared the same sentiments as the NFP. You've now called for the EFF to disclose their finances. You've insinuated that they've been spending millions on their campaigns but have not disclosed money to the IEC or donations that they've received.
Well, look, I run a political party as the leader of the Democratic Alliance. I know what rallies, what billboards, what posters cost. They cost millions of rands. And I think it's completely ridiculous to assume that the EFF is doing this without a single donation over 100,000 rand. And if particularly one looks back at the history of the party with some of the big donors from some of the underworld and other places, I think it's completely ridiculous. And I think the IEC needs to dig deeper. It's not fair to expect us to disclose our donors and to take the heat, and for the EFF not to. I also find it very odd that the Commissioner Love says that, they'll do it better at the next quarter. This was the most important quarter leading into the election. It's where the most money will be flowing to political parties. If you miss out on this first quarter, you're not going to get a full picture. So I think it's a cop-out by the IEC to say that, we'll do better next time.
Mr. Steenhuisen, in the interest of time, I have to take one question. Thank you so much for your time. Let me just quickly bring in the PAC before I bring in the ATM. They are launching their manifesto tomorrow. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it all systems go?
Yes, it is. We are ready to launch the manifesto tomorrow here in Egurulin.
And what can we expect quickly?
Expect a change, PAC. Expect a manifesto that talks to our people, a manifesto that talks to local government, and a manifesto that is going to talk to the plight of the African people. That's what you must expect. Thank
you so much, Babnyanso from the PAC. Let me just quickly bring in the ATM. We've seen your pledges. You're also preparing for your manifesto launch tomorrow. What can South Africans expect?
Your bread and butter issues, returning the microeconomy to South Africans, because our microeconomy is dominated by foreigners. With the high unemployment rate that we have, the poverty levels, we would like to return those basics to our people in South Africa.
Thank you so much. I'm not so sure if this is a political party. Okay, so can you just quickly... Okay, so COPE, and this is Mayor Makubele. Thank you. Okay. Okay, the mayoral candidate of the city of Johannesburg. You've seen what your party leader had said. He had pledged to the people of South Africa delivering services, but COPE hasn't been doing well. At the polls, the trajectory has actually dipped low. What are your expectations?
Look, thank you so much for this opportunity, and we welcome the pledge that we've signed. COPE has always abided by it. COPE is in a place of renewal right now. We are reviving the COPE. You can see there's fresh leadership, there's new leadership. We're recruiting young professionals to come and rebuild COPE. Why? Because COPE has seen that the people of South Africa, especially the citizens of Joburg, are calling for change. They are calling for leaders that are competent, leaders that know how to serve the people, leaders that will not be encumbered by politics and favors. And that's what we're trying to rebuild now. We want to focus on the economy. We want to focus on rebuilding the dignity of the youth. Every youth in the city of Johannesburg at least should have a job. This is Johannesburg. It was known for jobs. It was known for hopes coming true. It was known for businesses thriving here. What has happened? We have no electricity. We have no water. We have people that have patients that they can't take them anywhere in the clinics because they are closed, no infrastructure. This is not the Joburg that we dreamt of when we were sitting in the villages, in the township somewhere. We used to see people coming home with machangan bags full of gifts for their children, etc. But now there's despair. People have no jobs. Actually, the grandmothers from the villages are supporting the youth here, while the city cannot provide services. And that tells me that there is capacity to employ them and use those skills productively. We want to ensure that GBV is combated. We're using technology. Smart cities must be implemented. We had lockdown level 1, level 5. Children could not go to school. Only private school children could. Why we don't have free Wi-Fi? How long have we been implementing this program? Is it because we are using the wrong service providers that are connected? Is it because we don't want to get the right people in place? And this is not the COPE. COPE is saying we're not interested in your struggle credentials. We're not interested in your loyalty. We're interested in your competence, what you can do. If you're fit for purpose, we want you in to rebuild COPE.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your time. Of course, Nzinga, as SABC News, we've managed to capture all those reactions from various political parties after, of course, they have pledged, to live up to the electoral code of conduct of the IEC. And, of course, they've signed, that code of conduct. It would be interesting to see if the EFF will actually go to the headquarters of the IEC to sign that code of conduct as independent candidates will. But, of course, as SABC News, it's been an absolute pleasure coming to you, just bring you all the live proceedings of today's event from myself, from my colleague Yolisa Njamela, the men behind the cameras, Eugene, and the whole technical crew, Thabo Muputing. It's a very thank you, and of course, good afternoon to you, and of course to our SABC viewers. With that said, Nzinga, it's back to you in studio.
Natasha Piri from the IEC there. It's time for a short break. When we come back.